Hey squad, how's everybody doing on this beautiful Wednesday? I think it's Thursday. I'm pretty sure. I could be dramatically wrong because all my days are running together. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's been really exciting. I'm so glad that you guys are here during this very busy but wonderful and exciting week, despite the absolutely horrifying day we all had on Tuesday with tax day. It has been a really, really great week with lots of opportunities, lots of fun stuff going on. Life is freaking good. I will say today is going to be a little bit of a shorter stream, so I apologize for that. I have a lot going on with my day job today, as well as a really exciting opportunity that I had right before we started streaming, which is why we're starting a couple minutes late. I got to be a guest today on Megyn Kelly's podcast, which was so fun. It aired live on SiriusXM throughout the 1 to 1:50 Eastern time window, and it'll be up live on YouTube and across podcast platforms tonight. I was joined by Blast from the Past co-panelist and friend Will Witt, which was super fun, and we talked about all kinds of breaking news stuff and culture and content creation and the whole nine. It was my first time as a guest on Megyn Kelly's show, but it was really fun, and I'm sure you guys are going to want to see all of that, so I'll make sure it's featured on all of my channels and linked wherever you are watching right now. So today is a bit of a shorter stream, and we're not going to have our post-game Q&A today. I apologize. We just don't have enough time, unfortunately. But as you guys know, Locals is the place to be every single day for our post-game Q&A when we do have the time. And we do all of that exclusively over on Locals, as well as some other really exciting content that only exists over there. Our series Domus, which airs every Thursday on Faith and the Church, lives exclusively over on Locals. And every Tuesday, we have our show Outdated, which breaks down the lies of modern dating and relationship culture and replaces it with the truth. We talk about me getting ready to get married and birth control and gender theory and the whole nine, and why culture is setting my generation up to be heartbroken and sad. And it's a really interesting series that you don't find a lot of anywhere else on the internet. So both of those things you access exclusively over on Locals. I just dropped the link in our chat just in case you guys haven't joined us over there. Several hundred of you have, which is super exciting. So I'm glad that you guys are making the jump over there. And at the end of every live stream, we always do a Q&A exclusively available to our Locals supporters as well. So click that link to join our Locals community, where we get to have a lot of back and forth with each and every one of you guys. It is a lot more two-way street communication, not just me talking at you, and it is very, very fun. Locals people, you're already watching, so you're like jazzed up over here in our Locals chat, but we are live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Rumble, on Getter, and on Locals right now, so hello to each and every one of you, and I am so glad that you are here. All of that to be said, what day is it? I still don't even know. You guys are saying it's Thursday in the YouTube chat. Thank goodness. Thank you, Orthodox Russ, for the reminder. Hello to MJB watching on YouTube. Thomas is watching on YouTube. Ralph and Heinz are watching over on Facebook. We've got several people watching on Rumble. We've got the Getter Gang at Mr. Bin in Texas. Charles and Altorna. Heinz, you're also over on Getter, which is awesome to me. I love it. Johnny just sent us a $10 tip in our super chat over on Locals. Thank you so, so much. That means the absolute world to me. Johnny says, appreciate you still coming on, even if it's only for a bit. So grateful for you. Thank you, you guys. Alex is watching over on Locals, and so many others as well. Thank you guys so much for spending your Thursday afternoon with us. Cooper's also watching from France. Bonsoir, Cooper. So glad you're always watching from Europe. Okay, let's just jump right in, because everybody is having a meltdown all across the internet today that a beloved institution of trusted media, BuzzFeed News, sense my sarcasm, is shutting down. They're going out of business after 17 years as a media outlet or news source. If you guys grew up around the same time as me, as the earlier Gen Zers, like the first round of Gen Z and the very tail end of millennials in this weird like window of a few years, BuzzFeed was never a reputable source. I always thought of BuzzFeed initially, if I just thought about that word, as the fun little quizzes and the funny little pop culture things on their regular website. I didn't even realize BuzzFeed News was considered a media outlet until I was an adult when I was working at the White House. And on BuzzFeed News, they loved to talk about all of the things that we were doing at the White House, incorrectly, of course, all of the time. So it's wild to me that people actually are upset that BuzzFeed News is going out of business as if we're like missing some pillar cultural institution that is vital to getting information out to America. But I thought it would be fun today, as BuzzFeed News announced that they were shutting down that news division of the company. BuzzFeed as a whole, as an umbrella company, still exists. They're just laying off about 15% of their workforce. Hardly surprising in Joe Biden's America in the midst of Bidenflation. We're seeing Amazon lay off massive amounts of workers. Meta is laying off massive amounts of workers. David's Bridal is laying off a huge portion of their workforce, probably also because nobody's getting married, which is really, really sad. Several media companies have announced massive layoffs. I read today in the Wall Street Journal, Bed Bath & Beyond, I guess, is filing for bankruptcy. So businesses not doing well in Biden's America is hardly surprising. But BuzzFeed became the latest company today to announce we're laying off about 15% of our workforce. And the way we're doing that is by shuttering the doors of our BuzzFeed News division as a company. So during our shorter stream today, as I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off with a very busy day, I thought it would be fun to just go back through the last few months of BuzzFeed News and see what is considered a reputable source by very, very many, with their best, aka worst, headlines in the business. So
you can see what it is, and you can see what they've been.
Get rid of that. Sorry. Let me pull this up because I think it's going to be real fun for us to just dive right in to our friends over at BuzzFeed News. As I'm doing that, I'm going to read some stuff in our chat too. Thomas just said we had to shut down 4 of our plants at our job so far this year. Biden's America is a dumpster fire. Yes, it absolutely is. Just as much of a dumpster fire as BuzzFeed News, it seems, which is quite very, very sad. Thomas says BuzzFeed News was always garbage, so you're not wrong. And also, you've been listening to my audiobook, which is very, very fun. African Warlord says, go broke, go woke, go broke is my favorite weapon. I literally just sit back and watch themselves shoot themselves in the head. Yeah, you're not wrong. Alex says he's still having connection issues over on locals, which is not great. So I am so sorry if that is happening. Mr. Bin says BuzzFeed sucks. You're not wrong. They absolutely do suck. Hopefully, Alex, you can join us over on Getter and not have the same connection issues. And I apologize. Locals has had a little bit of connection problems for everybody, not just me today. Okay, so this is BuzzFeed News, a reputable news source, it seems, reporting to you with trending stories like why Barbie's best friend Midge was once removed from shelves. The news you need to read this morning. Help, the world is on fire, and I feel like my life is over at 2020 or at the age of 24. Multiple women are helping with this criminal investigation. Sexual assault on basketball playing teams. 34-year-old man who recently has been released from prison is accused of killing his parents. Blah, 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 blah. How about seeing grown men lusting over nude videos as they were leaked without her consent when she was 15? Yes, you can overdose on weed. Here's what to do if you overdo it. This is the homepage of a reputable news source. So I thought it would be fun for us to just dive through recent stories in the various categories of this news source to mourn the loss of an American institution, BuzzFeed News. We'll start with politics because this is one of my favorite things that they regularly talk about. Again, also I'm moving. I keep getting ads popped up everywhere about couches and furniture. I did just move to Florida, so that is what is happening. Politics. If you go to BuzzFeedNews.com/section/politics, here is the type of hard-hitting journalism about the forefront of American culture and our systems of governance that you too just really desperately need to know. Montana lawmakers have voted to ban TikTok. I actually think this is their most important story that they've covered at all. If you wondered how Ron DeSantis looks eating pudding with his fingers, well, the answer is here. Lady Gaga has been appointed to lead a presidential commission by Joe Biden. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez lambastes Tennessee GOP for naked abuse of power, because I'm so interested in everything that she has to say. Advocates say a proposed change to Title IX rules are a betrayal to trans rights and could bar trans athletes from competitive sports, even though we're okay barring biological women from their own sports through the competition of biological men. So I kept digging. Super hard-hitting journalism, as you can find. And I found some personal favorites in the politics section of real news that you too can find on BuzzFeed News. How about this one? An all-out attack on speech, an attack on all speech, has passed its first hurdle in Florida. A dozen members of the public, including defense attorneys, free press advocates, and LGBTQ activists, all rose to speak against the controversial Florida bill, warning that it likely contravenes longstanding Supreme Court precedent. So, in case you missed this, a committee in the Florida House of Representatives voted on Tuesday to move forward with a bill reforming defamation laws that some First Amendment advocates and activists that BuzzFeed News considers to be experts decried to legislators as representing a death knell for American traditions of free speech. Yeah, okay. Hard-hitting journalism. How about this one in the politics section? RuPaul urged fans. Go away, ads. We can't stand you. This is why BuzzFeed News is going out of business, by the way. Urged fans to fight back against the right-wing stunt queens who are legislating against drag. Same author. David seems to have a lot to say about the right in America today. RuPaul has faced criticism for not speaking out more publicly about the spate of anti-drag bills sweeping state houses across the country amid a nationwide legal assault by conservatives on drag performances and the LGBTQ community. Drag icon RuPaul delivered a simple but powerful message on Wednesday. Register to vote so we can get these stunt queens out of office. In a video posted to Instagram, the Drag Race franchise creator and host called attempts by right-wing politicians to crack down on drag performances in the guise of protecting children as a classic distraction technique from bullies. As if drag shows aren't a classic distraction technique from wanting to transition children. How about another one? Biden signed a marriage equality law in front of drag queens. Can we please go away? And the nephew of that Republican who cried about it. Breaking news. Same reporter. David, I am sorry you are out of a job today, my friend. Posted on December 13th of last year. It's really surreal, said Andrew Holzer, an openly gay man who was invited to the White House to watch the president sign into law something his Republican lawmaker aunt had tearfully voted against. Hard-hitting journalism that we see from the BuzzFeed politics section of BuzzFeed News. I don't really know what else to do about that, but that's just me. Troy says, wow, they're really covering the important stuff, eh? And says, wait, BuzzFeed News is the news? LOL. Yeah, this is considered actual political news, it seems, in modern America. But the BuzzFeed politics section is not the only section of important hard-hitting news. There is an entire section on LGBTQ news provided to us from this hard-hitting journalistic integrity pillar of American culture. Here's the reveal for the queens that will be competing on the new RuPaul's Drag Race show. Coachella. 16 hilarious gay tweets of the week. Mr. Beast controversy that we talked about that honestly I think is being really blown out of proportion by everybody associated with the whole thing. J.K. Rowling, of course. More RuPaul. More J.K. Rowling. And in this section, we get a whole barrage of wonderful LGBTQ news that is specifically aimed at reaching the people of my generation very clearly with a specific, non-biased, unbiased agenda on the entire thing. Like this story. These dreamlike photos feel radical for showing black transmasculine people at rest. Does anyone at all want to try to define what black transmasculine people at rest are? There aren't any flowers within the images I make, but the flowers are the Black trans masculine people themselves, said Texas Isaiah of his project, Flowers at Your Feet. Apparently, this is what a Black trans masculine person at rest looks like in the woods. There are more. Oh, yes. So at rest. So peaceful. So flowery. Don't we love to see it? The hard-hitting LGBTQ news you too need to hear. What am I looking at? But of course, you won't hear any stories about detransitioners or having pain when you're having sex, or that the fact that you're infertile probably happened because you took hormones when you were a teenager. That's not hard-hitting LGBTQ news at all. Instead, we must show the Black trans masculine activists being flowers in the woods. How about this one? As J.K. Rowling continues to attack the trans community, I'd sue for defamation if I were you, Daniel Radcliffe continues to support them. The hero, Harry Potter, that we all needed. As Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling continues to make headlines around the world for her anti-transgender activism, in other words, saying, I support trans people, but I do believe biological women are different than transgender women. Again, I would totally sue for defamation. The star of the Harry Potter films, Daniel Radcliffe, is continuing to voice his support for the transgender community, especially trans youth. On Wednesday, LGBTQ suicide prevention nonprofit The Trevor Project announced that Radcliffe is serving as a moderator for some discussion series that they're putting together and putting on YouTube. How about this one? When you're polyamorous, figuring out who's paying for what can be complicated. The hard-hitting breaking news that our society needs. If you need money to go date 6 different people in your city and you can't have guests at your house, so every date requires a restaurant and a hotel room, that requires some money. Maybe it's just the traditionalist in me, the happily engaged monogamous cisgender heterosexual woman in me. But I feel like requiring money to date 6 different people in your city that you refuse to have at your house and you have to go date at a restaurant sounds like a personal problem that you've manifested out of your own decision making. But BuzzFeed News is here to save the day by telling the story of Daniel, 37, had some financial trouble when he was married. He and his then wife shared their money but disagreed about how to spend it. After the marriage ended, though, Daniel felt like his future relationships would require heightened communication around money. Now he's in a 4-person polycule, and the finances remain separate. BuzzFeed News is writing this particular piece of journalistic importance for society. Then we go to the health section. Don't we love health? It has the cute little heart in the A. Adorable. Of course, the first story is Rare Beauty's products have sparked a critical conversation about the beauty industry's lack of inclusivity. If we go into the health section further, there's all kinds of lovely health advice by the experts in society that are certainly going to make you healthier over time, couldn't possibly make you any less healthy or have any wild leftist theories behind their health, right? This one, what it means for reproductive health if the FDA is forced to pull the abortion drug, mifepristone, full of misinformation when it comes to how the abortion pill works, what it's used for, and whether or not it's safe. There's no agenda here, right? Pregnancy is getting more dangerous in the United States, new data show, especially for Black people. Let's face it, we lie in America by saying we really value mothers, motherhood, and women when we clearly don't. Since 2018, maternal mortality rates in the U.S. have been on the rise, particularly during the pandemic and especially among Black people. And now new data released this week reinforces the alarming and mostly preventable trend. Totally agree with you. It is a mostly preventable trend that we should be fighting back against, but hard to say that you don't have any agenda when you're openly promoting a pro-abortion agenda and then saying it's dangerous for Black women to be pregnant, so therefore you should just get an abortion and put your own life at risk anyway. It's what's causing almost half of black babies in certain cities in America, sometimes more than half in certain cities of America, to be aborted. Or even this bizarre piece of journalistic reporting. Gwyneth Paltrow has tried rectal ozone therapy. And here's what experts think. Known as rectal ozone insufflation therapy. What? Experts say there's little or no proven medical benefit of the treatment. Oscar-winning actress Gwyneth Paltrow has dabbled in many alternative therapies, but even she admits that blowing ozone gas up her rectum is pretty weird. You don't say, Gwyneth. She also said that it's been very helpful on Monday's episode of this certain podcast. So it's all a good laugh, right? It's funny. We love to laugh about it. BuzzFeed News is the gift that keeps on giving until now because they've gone out of business. I don't think I'll miss them one bit or have any remorse or sense of sadness that BuzzFeed News is going out of business, but why does it matter? This is the bigger conversation that I want to have with you today, and I'm curious to know your thoughts about this, so drop it in the live chat. Why does this matter? That platforms like this, A, exist, which is fine. They have all the right to exist. This is a country based on the principle of freedom of speech and freedom of the press. But more importantly, why is it important to analyze the cultural impact that they have in reaching the next generation? BuzzFeed is allegedly this cute quiz website that makes funny stuff on Instagram, and everybody wants to take the quiz on what type of hamburger they are, or what Disney princess they would be, or if they lived in a fantasy of Star Wars, who would their Star Wars husband be? Ha 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 ha. So cute, right? When these platforms continue to pick up steam and have nothing to do with the biggest cultural issues of our time, but are just for fun, we start to see this behavior transforming really, really quickly to then cover the issues that do matter with a very specific agenda behind them. The BuzzFeed news model does not operate in isolation. Now this news, which operates primarily on social media, even Teen Vogue, which is no longer a fashion magazine, but is aimed at converting teenagers to believe in things like communism and destroying the nuclear family and abortion on demand and changing your gender as a teenager without your parents' consent. These are becoming normal conversations within my generation because of companies like BuzzFeed and Teen Vogue and now this and youth-centric news sources that really have nothing to do with reporting the news, but instead are interested in presenting a filtered way through which to view current events, what's happening in politics, and the biggest cultural issues of our time. Victor is saying it really well in our YouTube chat. It shows the more radical a news source company becomes in their content creation, it results in customers becoming alienated and leaving their audience. That's true. So over time, people do get sick and tired of this. They can't keep up the charade of allowing for this type of propaganda to replace actual news and actual information gathering. But in the meantime, until they get to that point where people have had enough, they influence, overtly or subvertly, entire generations of people to believe in their woke nonsense propaganda garbage. I do not find it coincidental at all that overnight BuzzFeed went from being the cute little quiz website to a news source where people feel like they're getting expert information on dating when it's about how to pay for polyamory, or healthcare when it's about how to obtain abortion on demand and why pregnancy is a dangerous, preventable thing for Black women in America. I don't find it coincidental at all that overnight Teen Vogue went from being a super cute fashion magazine and which Jonas brother you want to end up with, Nick, obviously, by the way, to all of a sudden writing pieces on Stalinism and Marxism and communism and why our generation should embrace societally collective ownership through the government of all of our private property or transition our gender as soon as humanly possible without our parents' consent because the government told us to. At all. I don't find that coincidental at all. I don't find it coincidental that these types of media outlets that operate primarily on social media, where the vast majority of my generation gets our information and news every day, are tailoring this very specific leftist authoritarian message to my generation and wrapping it all up in very cute graphic design, great marketing, and an understanding that it's here, that we need to spread news and a breakdown of current events if we're serious about reaching the next generation. Actual journalistic pillars of integrity have nothing to do with these websites, which is probably why they're going out of business. But in the process of trying to influence an entire generation, propaganda works. It works all the time. And so I'd love to use this example of a BuzzFeed News to at least get you thinking critically about how your trusted mainstream, actually based on integrity sources of media, might be operating exactly the same way. We look to these outlets and these companies and these social media accounts as somebody that we can trust as an expert, right? It's a fancy website. It has great marketing, super eye-catching graphic design, and a great presence on social media. So I can trust that thing, right? And obviously BuzzFeed News is the end of the spectrum of just how crazy journalism can look in America today. But I think we can apply this filter of skepticism to whether or not this is a legitimate news story or written by an expert or has no agenda and is really unbiased to every single type of media we consume every day. I am of the opinion that there is no such thing as an unbiased source in modern America. There's not. It's dead. And when we come to that understanding, we can start realizing that every corporate news broadcast that we watch, regardless of what channel you choose to put on, probably has an agenda behind it. Every magazine we open, even if it's not about politics, but is about lifestyle or fashion or health, probably has an agenda behind those glossy pages that we think isn't going to influence our way of thinking or not. Every single social media post that we look at in the name of news or tweet that goes out with a viral headline probably has an agenda behind it. This is why independent content creation and independent journalism is so important in the modern age. It's why we do these live streams. It's why I consume 95% of my information and my news every day through sources that I personally trust on social media, people that I know have done their due diligence, instead of blindly following a company or a corporation or an account that looks really well put together and is incredibly well funded, but is clearly trying to sell me on something, either overtly or subvertly. And I think we owe it to the next generation to use this closure of BuzzFeed News, clearly a propaganda machine and not really interested in delivering the right information about current events or what's happening in politics or how you even take care of yourself with your health, but getting you to buy into this agenda as a vehicle to explain every single media company has the same objective. They're trying to change public opinion through the guise of unbiased reporting on current events and social media today. Journalism, as we know it, asking the big questions, fact-finding, and reporting on what those facts are, is dead in modern America. It's gone. I genuinely do not believe that exists at all. So if that's the case, how do we gracefully and responsibly consume current events, opinion analysis, and a breakdown of the news in the 21st century, in 2023 and beyond? I think it starts with finding the people that you trust, knowing that there probably is an opinion there. We don't have to apologize for our opinions. We don't have to walk away from them. But I think it's time for media in America to move beyond this narrative talking point that we are unbiased, because we're just not. Nitty Witty says this best in our Getter chat. So they plant the seeds of wokeness for youth and start the slow march towards totalitarianism. Little Gray Bunny says on Getter, totally agree, Isabel. There is a bias and agenda in every news service. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. So when we realize this is a long game, this isn't something that's happening immediately. It's not going to come out in one headline or one crazy story or one social media post. These are companies relying on your continued trust, playing a very long game to plant seeds in your mind to get you to believe an agenda. I think we can resurrect a healthy skepticism of who is delivering us this information. I, for one, have chosen pretty much to trust no one, which is the attitude of my generation. I just wrote about that at length for a different project that I'm working on, and you will hear more about that later. But to Jay's point in our Facebook chat, we can plant our own seeds. I have chosen to plant my own seeds of thought, right? By investigating things, by parsing out all of the bias and information and noise, and finding the closest thing that I think exists to the truth, and sharing that with you in any way that I can. I don't apologize for my opinion. I don't apologize for having a bias on a certain subject, but I at least can present the actual information to you in a responsible way, knowing that I come from a filtered piece of dialogue. I want to encourage each one of you today to identify 5 or 6, maybe up to 10 people in your own life on your own social media feeds that you can follow from across the spectrum of political opinions, of worldviews, of religious proclivities, etc., that you know have a bias but are delivering you the right information. Because I think it falls on us now as the consumer to responsibly seek out people we know are giving us reliable news, reliable current events, reliable information, even if they do have a filter of bias behind them. Tito asks in our YouTube chat, besides Isabel Brown, who is a good news source, drop all of your suggestions in our live chats across platforms, because I'm really curious who you guys like to follow and who you trust to follow to give you the right information. Someone says on YouTube chat, BuzzFeed News is going out of business. This is the first good news I've had all week, pun intended. Correct. In the era of independent content, it falls on us to seek out the right people that we can trust. Jay says Charlie Kirk on Facebook. Keep dropping your suggestions across platforms. But I would suggest each and every one of you to go find people that you resonate with, that you trust, that are giving you the right information and are not walking away from their own commentary associated with that. Johnny Diamond on Locals says Candace Owens is a great suggestion. She's a great friend of mine. Tyler Adams says, I get all of my daily news and updates from Dylan Mulvaney. He's a spokesperson for Bud Light. There's no way he's not credible. A lot of people do get their information from a Dylan Mulvaney. Jay says Jordan Peterson, great one. Katie says Matt Walsh, great one. Steve says Russell Brand. He is phenomenal these days with completely independent content, not owned by anyone. Dutch Canadian on YouTube says Brett Cooper. We love Brett. She's a phenomenal source of information. Amaze Page says the Epic Times. I really like the Epic Times. I think they generally do a pretty great job. Someone on YouTube says, I personally trust no one at this point. I watch both sides and make my own conclusion. That's what I do, and I think that's important. Thomas says, unapologetic with Amala. Amala is a freaking rock star. We love her, and you can find her across platforms with PragerU. I'm waiting for some more suggestions if you guys had anyone. A lot of people say you. Yes, but you're already here, so we're trying to give you some more suggestions as well. Of course, here on the stream every single day. Maze Page says Anomaly. Good suggestion. We love that. But I really want to wrap things up today with someone's suggestion on YouTube. I personally trust no one. I watch both sides and make my own conclusion. I encourage you, I challenge you to seek out commentators from the left who aren't pretending to be unbiased. They're not pretending to be just a journalist. That doesn't exist anymore. That's why CNN and MSNBC have ratings in the frickin' toilet, because they pretend to be these unbiased purveyors of facts and truth, when in reality, they're clearly feeding you an agenda. Go seek out people from across the spectrum of political thought and ideology and philosophy, even outside of just politics, and challenge yourself to listen to what they have to say. In our hyper-partisan and hyper-opinionated world, it falls on us to responsibly seek out what is the right information. I will be completely transparent with you that I don't have all the information and all the facts and all of the truth all the time, because it's hard to find those things. And it's a huge responsibility as a creator myself to make sure that I'm giving you the right information in this world of distrust and lies and misinformation. But I want you to figure out how to articulate the things that you believe in this society that's moved entirely, completely into subjective truth and subjective reality. How do you find objective truth and the facts in any particular situation in a world that says my truth is different from your truth? You go listen to a multitude of opinions and figure it out for yourself. That's hard. That's really hard. It takes a lot more time than just turning on your TV or opening the newspaper or starting to scroll through Twitter. But it's worth it. I can promise you that. And that's exactly what we do on these live streams. That's what we aim to provide to you is, hey, here's my opinion, but here's generally what people think about the subject. And we seek your guys' opinions too in the live chat because it's incredibly important for us to have these open forums of communication. BuzzFeed News shutting down is not the end of woke propaganda for my generation from a news source or a commentator or somebody on social media or even any of our politicians that I certainly do not trust today. But I think it falls on us to counter out the noise, to counter out the propaganda, to consume better information, and to share it with others in any way we can. I feel incredibly blessed that I get to do that through my live stream every single day with my content and through my content on Locals all the time, which I hope you guys have a chance to join us over there for our Locals series that only exist there. Our other videos here on YouTube or Rumble or wherever you are watching on Instagram, on TikTok, and everywhere in between. It is a huge blessing and a huge responsibility, and we are not going anywhere anytime soon. So much of that is thanks to the incredible support and engagement and commentary that you guys provide to us in our live chat, in donating through our super chats, in supporting us over on Locals, and so many other ways. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. Have a nice little funeral for BuzzFeed News today. Go scroll through their website for all the insanity before it goes away forever. Goodbye. Rest in peace. Not really. I will not miss you one bit whatsoever. Again, I'm sorry that we have a bit of a shorter stream today. I have a lot going on with my day job and some other stuff as well. If you guys tuned in at the end of the stream just now, we are not doing our post-game Q&A over on Locals today. We're going to do an extra long one tomorrow, though, so make sure you're joining us over on Locals for that. I have a link that I'm going to share with you within the next couple of hours. I was a guest on Megyn Kelly earlier today on her podcast, which aired live on SiriusXM. And will be up on podcast platforms and YouTube later this evening. So I'll make sure that is featured with each and every one of you. And we got all kinds of other great content coming to you soon on any platform that you're watching on. Before we go, do me a huge favor, like this video in whatever capacity you can. Hit the little heart button or the thumbs up wherever you're watching. Share this with somebody. Repost it if you have the capacity to on Facebook or on Getter. And don't forget to hit the subscribe or the follow button if you have not already. It means the absolute world to me as an independent creator. We are getting really, really close to 10,000 subs here on YouTube. So encourage some of your friends to sub to us. If you guys haven't already subbed, please consider doing that. Maze Page, thank you so much for your donation in our YouTube super chat. Really appreciate it. And I am super pumped for a fun Friday Funnies stream with you tomorrow, talking about the funniest things on the internet. It's going to be really fun with an extra long post-game show over on Locals. I hope you guys have the greatest rest of your Thursday. Thank you for correcting me what day it is. And I will see you tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for being here.